Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me again. Happy Sunday. This is Millennium TV 24, and I am your host, Money Talks. We talk about our finances, we talk about money, we talk about your health, your physical health, your mental health. I am so excited to be here with you today. Today I have a special guest. You'll get a chance to meet her in a few minutes. I am so excited to be in the process, on the journey with you in building this financial home. As we continue to make sure that financial house is in order, it's important that we check up from the neck up at times. Make sure that we're taking care of our mental well-being. We talked last week about the physical, emotional health. The spiritual health is also equally important, right? And we talk about eating healthy, just having a healthy balance, being able to make sure that we're focusing on the greater picture, because this pandemic has affected everyone worldwide. And if you're not careful, you will fall behind in fixing your financial home, putting things in order, making sure that you are of good health, emotionally, physically, again, because when we take care of ourselves, we can take care of other people, our families, our friends, our job. We have to make sure that we're taking care. So I'm not here to talk about all the bad news and everything that's not going right, because we already know what's not going right. We know about the economic impact of COVID-19 on the average household. We know what has been affected. The income, the unemployment rates are through the roof. But you know what? There is one thing I know, that we are people that are able to bounce back from adversity. We have the ability to bounce back. So we want to talk about solutions and make sure we focus on what's going right, not what's not going right, right? We know what's not going right. We know there are certain things we have no control of. We can't fix certain things. But I can tell you, if you stay on this journey with me, I will make sure I provide you with all the solutions that are required in order for you to maintain this journey of fixing your financial house or building a new one. So think about what type of paint you want for your new house as you fix it, as you build it. You know, what colors do you want in your kitchen, in your bathroom, in your bedroom? What about your den? You might want a den where you want to be able to relax once in a while. So think about those things, because I have some information for you that you probably already know, that COVID-19 and its impact on retirement alone is huge. Every 1 in 4 Americans say that they have to postpone planning for retirement. So think about how many people are postponing planning for retirement, postponing putting that emergency savings in place. But there are 4 reasons why financial readiness should be your top goal. Don't postpone planning for retirement. Don't postpone putting that emergency fund aside, because we know we're living in a climate where there is rainy days, right? We've been through the rainy days. We've been through the rainy quarters. We've been through the rainy year. 16 months later, we're still in a rainy period. So what if you had enough put away for these rainy times that we're going through? What if you didn't have to worry about not having a job, not having an income, not having enough money to take care of your family? What if you had these plans? Because having these plans does make a difference, especially being able to sleep at night. Because based on the top financial firm survey that I spoke about previously, 26% of Americans are staying up at night, not being able to sleep due to anxiety, due to feeling depressed about either losing their job or have lost their job. There's not enough monies. But we can talk about not having the income, but let's find solutions. Let's talk about how to secure your financial future. making sure your monies are working for you. I love helping my clients to make sure they're maximizing every dollar, because if there's not enough, I show my clients how to free up money to be able to put money away, because I know the problems. I also have solutions where I help my clients be able to secure part-time opportunities that can help them to make that additional income so that they can have that money to put away for retirement, or even plan for those emergencies, because we know they happen. So you free up money on one end. It allows you to put money aside for those emergencies. It gives you a peace of mind, that mental calmness that you need, that reducing that anxiety level so you can sleep better at night. Because we know what happens if you can't pay the bills. So we don't want to keep talking about that. But those reasons that I talked about before, financial readiness is so important. Having those extra dollars to maximize them, to make them work for you, make your money work for you. I promise you I will take you on this journey to financial freedom. I promise you I will take you to building wealth. I promise that I would make sure that you're healthy along the way. And I'm keeping my promise because you trust me as your guide. So let's talk about the third financial readiness, to give yourself a peace of mind. And I talked about this as we build this financial home. We talked about the foundation. You building a home, you need that foundation. You check on it. It's built already? Check on it. Let's do an inspection. Let's make sure you have the proper life insurance for your protection. And I will continue to talk about that because that is an income replacement. You look at it whichever you want, but if you love and care so much about your family, you want to make sure they're protected, because any one of us can pass away at any time. God forbid something happened to you. The families I've worked with that love and care about their children, their spouse, their loved one, they love them so much that they said to me, a few people said to me, God forbid I pass away, and if I can look down and see my family still being able to live a great lifestyle or better lifestyle, I want to put them in that position. Because if I didn't and I could look back and see them suffering, I would not rest in peace. So to put you in a better position, to have a peace of mind, to rest in peace, God forbid you pass away prematurely and your children are still young, or you still have a house mortgage, you still have college tuition, you still have all those debts. Making sure you cut down your debt. We talk about being able to cut your debt in half. That's what I teach my families that I work with. How to cut your debt in half so you can free up that money to be ready for these rainy days, these rainy quarters, these rainy months, these rainy years, right? So another solution I want to continue to talk about is to make sure that you're putting a plan in place. Having a plan in place for your roof, that power of attorney, that will, having that advance directive. Because if you cannot speak for yourself and you lose competence and you can't say what you need in order to take care of your mental health or your physical health, you need to have it in writing. So these solutions are so important. And today, my guest, she will be talking about the emotional piece. She'll answer your questions, because if we're experiencing anxiety and depression due to COVID-19 and the economical factors that's affecting your family and your loved ones and your well-being, we need to revisit it. Every time we continue to build, if there's a barrier, an issue, we must step back, take a moment, look at your checkoff list and see what's going right and what's not going so right, because the inflation is at a high rate. The cost of goods, the cost of services has increased drastically. So if you cannot keep up with the pace of inflation, then you won't be able to rest peacefully at night. So you see how all of these things are relevant Again, your mental health is relevant in building your asset. We building your asset. Your asset, you are the greatest asset. So when I talk about asset, I'm not just talking about your retirement planning. I'm not talking about your home, your boats and your cars. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about your children. Those assets are important to maintain a well-being so you will rest peacefully at night. The asset, you first. Because when you get on an airplane, I've traveled, I've been on airplanes many times, and they always say, the pilot always say, if there's an emergency, you have to put on your oxygen mask first before you put on the mask on your loved one, your children, or whoever needs your help. So here we are today to continue this journey on financial wellness, physical wellness, emotional wellness, spiritual wellness. And I want to make sure that you are taking notes, because I promise you that you will be able to get the solutions that you need to continue this journey. There will be barriers. Those barriers don't last. It's very temporary. What we're going through is temporary. We will get through this together. So just maintain your balance. And as I talked about previously, maintaining that healthy balance in your eating. What are you eating? What are you putting in your body? Yes, I'm talking about money, but you cannot get around it. Money is everything. It's equally important, just like oxygen, you need it. Because if you need to maintain a physical well-being and emotional well-being, you need to be able to maintain a healthy well-being. Money is related. So let's make sure that when we think about our relationship with money, as we talk about these solutions, know what your relationship is with money. Because growing up for myself, I was told that money is the root of all evil. And it's not true. It is not true. So if you're thinking that money is the root of all evil, we have to change that mindset. That mindset has to be changed, because money isn't. You need money in order to eat. You need money for shelter and clothing. So how is it that money is the root of all evil? You're not evil. Eating is not evil. Clothing is not evil. Housing is not evil. So let's think about changing that mindset. We want to make sure that you are on this journey and you have a clear mind in order to finish. Because if we're not thinking clearly, we're not going to be able to finish. So let's continue to take a moment and check up from the neck up. And our guests will be on after our commercial. So tune in, everyone.
Millennium TV, bridging Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us back. All right, we have our guest. Hi, Dr. Clouden. This is our guest. Yes, welcome. This is our guest, Dr. Clouden. Dr. Clouden is a psychiatrist. She's been in psychiatry for over 15 years. She is amazing, guys. She has a wealth of knowledge. She's a very caring, compassionate doctor. You've never met a better caring, compassionate doctor than Dr. Clouden. She's worked in settings like inpatient and outpatient treatment centers. She takes a one-on-one approach in helping you with your problems and making sure that she walks you through the journey. So welcome, Dr. Clouden. As we're here today, we're talking about building and maintaining and fixing that financial home. And I am so excited to have you on the show today. And I'm very happy that you're here to give us some guidance and some solutions, because we talk about solutions, right? So as we talk about solutions, I wanted to ask you, the first question I have for you is there a relationship between finances and mental health?
Well, there is a huge relationship, Cynthia. I have to say, throughout my years, financial strain is one of the biggest stressors patients have. Without their finances, it affects them being able to pay their bills. I have patients who are homeless, have lost their homes, especially during this pandemic, which is what you talked about. Yes. The pandemic left thousands of people in serious financial strain. They lost their jobs. They don't have enough income to pay for their homes, to pay for their apartments, to pay for their food. And I believe one of the things that COVID showed us is that we have not been planning appropriately with our money.
Yes.
And being in that type of financial strain leads to depressive symptoms. Some people end up becoming extremely anxious because they don't know where the next money is going to come. And when you become more depressed and more anxious, it affects the way that you can approach the problem.
Let me ask you, not to cut you off, Doc, but what is depression and what is anxiety? Could you expand on that a little bit more? Because it may look different for some people and depend on the situation. Thank you.
One of the things that I want to clarify is that we use depression and anxiety as everyday terms. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have in mental health. Now, we have normal emotions. So if you are going through extreme stress, there are bound to be some depressive symptoms. There's bound to be anxiety. But I'm talking more so about what we call a major depressive disorder. And this is when a person now feels sad for most of the day, has immense guilt, cannot concentrate, can't think, they can't get out of bed, they cannot function. They even start thinking about, is it better that I'm not here?
Wow.
Maybe if I could just die in my sleep, if I got hit by a car. That weighs on them. It's not something you can sleep away. It's not something that you can snap out of. And that is a full-blown disorder as opposed to the normal emotion of maybe being sad, related to what is going on at the time.
Right.
Anxiety is the same way. It's a sense of worry. People just worry, which also increases when you're in some type of conflict, financial strain.
Yes.
The problem is when the worry starts to affect your ability to function. You can't work properly because you're constantly worrying.
Right.
You can't think of a plan to get yourself out of whatever financial problems you have because you're consumed with worry.
Right.
You can't sleep. You're tense. You're just in a hyper state of fear. And it's paralyzing. And that is when it's important to see a professional. You will recognize when it's more than normal. And people with disorders, people without disorders, we saw a huge influx of patients with worsening of their depression, anxiety, or those who were developing it for the first time.
Wow. And that was another question I had for you. As far as since the pandemic, have you seen a major increase in people seeking help for depression and anxiety, people even taking their lives due to the fact that there's this economic factor that has taken a toll on them and their families?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I even had one patient that did commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
People's livelihood may depend on the kind of work that they had.
Right.
So if you were going into homes, if you were, I had a patient that worked at one of these aquariums, and so all of that shut down.
Wow.
And it was extremely difficult for many of them, but it also brings into light, which is what you're talking about, the importance of planning, the importance of living at your means and not above it.
Right.
The importance of having that 6-month savings, as you said, a year savings.
Correct.
Because when you're thrusted into that type of difficulty, many people find it's too difficult to deal with.
Yes, yes. And not having that support, because there are multiple families out here that don't have support. There are resources out here, and some of them don't know how to, reach out for help and utilize those resources. So I know you worked, and we had the pleasure of working together in, in the hospital. I'm the clinician, you're the doctor, and such an experience, and pre-COVID-19, you've seen these same issues. Now post, I don't know if it's post-COVID-19, but post-COVID-19, there are even more factors with the financial resources from the government to be able to take care of these issues. So what do you recommend, for someone who doesn't have the health insurance to take care of these issues?
Well, one of the things that I think is very key is that people recognize that the only person that truly can take care of them financially is themselves.
Correct.
Yes, the government can give out handouts, and the government can do, try to supply and support us in some ways. Right. But you have to plan. This is not something that you can try to do at the last minute. And as humans, we're going to have pandemics, we're going to have tragedies, and it's extremely important that you take your finances into your own hands. One of the biggest conflicts between married couples is finances.
That's
The
right.
average patient I see is in financial disarray in some way. Either they lost their job, they can't keep up with their bills, they don't have the income that they used to have, their spouse has died, and now it causes this huge financial burden. So it really requires a step by step, like you said, taking inventory, checking to see how much you spend every day, writing this down. We go through money and we don't even realize hundreds we're spending every month.
Right.
But if you actually keep track of your spending, your income, your expenses, your lifestyle, what you need, it'll give you a better idea of how you need to allocate your funds.
I
And
like
like you
that.
said, money is not everything, but it is a huge part of our lives. And if you're stable, I had many healthcare workers that stopped working because they didn't feel protected
Right.
from COVID-19.
That's
Because
anxiety,
the-
right?
Yes, because the protective gear was not enough. So certain healthcare providers just stopped going to work. And some had to work because they were needed. But these are different situations where you have more choices
Right.
if you have more financial freedom.
Wow.
And I truly believe that financial freedom is directly linked with mental health. It is.
Yes, yes. So
How many
thank
of
you
us
for
can
saying
say
that.
we are comfortable? How many of us can say that if we lose our jobs tomorrow, that we would be able to live at the same level
Right.
for 6 months?
Right. Exactly. And thank you for saying that. You know, as you talk about this, I'm thinking about you're pretty much saying that, you know, financial planning is a huge
Yes.
part of your mental well-being, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
directly. I would say 85% of the patients I see have some financial distress.
85%?
I would say 85%.
Wow, that's a huge number.
That's a huge number. I have had people make serious suicide attempts because without them knowing, they lost a job or a partner died.
Yes.
There was no savings, there was no planning, and their entire lifestyle upside down. Had lots of money, but was spending, never thinking of the possibility that they would not be able to live this same lifestyle. You have to do this.
And
You have to do this. And the earlier you do it, the better. But it's never too late.
never too late.
It's
That's
never
right.
Never late.
That's right.
It's never too late. You can be in a hole and think, how can I get out? It's not how much money you make. It's how you manage it. And you can still have fun. I'm not talking about living and not being able to enjoy yourself and do things just in a wide manner.
Exactly. Okay. And you mentioned, and thank you, I mean, those numbers are huge, 85%. And you mentioned having, having couples, you know, a loved one, the couple died, husband or wife, and they're in disarray. The anxiety level just go through the roof because there wasn't that foundation. I talk about the foundation, which is the life insurance, having term life insurance that protect that income. Because if that income is gone, you can't live the same lifestyle, correct?
You have to, absolutely. You have to have life insurance. For many people, if you go to your local bank, if you're in a credit union or if you have a bank, they have people that you can talk to just to start at the bare minimum as to the basic things that you need to do to help with your finances. If they listen to your show, they will understand the basics that require. And it's not difficult. Like you keep talking about your financial home. What color do you want to paint? What foundation do you have?
Right.
Eventually furniture. comes in.
Yes.
But if they listen to you and just get the critical foundation, it'll just build on top of that. It'll just keep building and building. And there's a level of emotional security
Yes.
that comes from building your financial home. Like you keep saying, there is nothing like it.
Right. So that peace of mind you get, right, from building a
Yes.
financial home, you can
Yes.
sleep better at night. Because how many patients do you treat with insomnia? Who has insomnia?
I would say almost every patient I treat has insomnia.
Wow.
And for a large majority of them, the insomnia is coming from the worry. That's why they can't sleep, because they can't shut their brain off. They're just worrying and worrying and worrying. And one of those worries, 9 times out of 10, is finances.
Wow.
Always. How are they going to pay for this? How are they going to do that? How are they going to do this? How am I going to?
How are you going to feed your family?
How are you going to feel? I mean, I can't express to you, COVID just threw everyone. But those people that had always been preparing and had money saved
Yes.
were better off emotionally than those people who were instantaneously depleted of everything.
Correct. Yes. And
Yes.
I have actually worked with many families throughout the pandemic, also helping them to make sure that they put these things in place. And that was a huge worry for many families, not having things in place. But then once they were able to put those things in
Yes.
place, the financial planning piece, they told me personally that now they can sleep better at night. They can
That's
rest
right.
peacefully. And that just gives me such a great feeling knowing that I am able to help someone. And I know you more than likely you are getting the same feeling, because now
Yep.
you have your patients talking with you about these issues
Yep.
that they don't talk to anybody else about. Because, you know, as a psychotherapist in the past and being a
Absolutely.
financial advisor, my clients tell me things they would never tell anyone else. You
Tell
get that?
anybody else.
Yes, you get the
Yes.
same issues, right? Where you're dealing
Yes.
with, okay, and
I
the financial
highly
piece.
Yes.
Okay.
I highly recommend that anyone who's just struggling, even when you think you have nothing, I
Yes.
can't express this enough. Even, I mean, people with incomes of $45,000 a year have been able to get themselves out of debt, have assets. I can't express this enough. If they get in contact with you and just start from the basics, this can work for anyone.
Correct.
This can really work for anyone. And
The basics.
it's extremely important.
Yes, the basics.
Extremely important.
And you talked about COVID and how it has impacted finances, you know, as far as mental illness. Would
Yes.
you expand more on that? Because there are patients, there are studies that shows that patients who have been treated for COVID-19 has had more anxiety and depression issues since they have COVID-19. Is that correct?
This illness is it is such a novel virus that it's just amazing. When I work in the hospital and I was working as a consultant, we were people that had no previous psychiatric history at all were developing neuropsychiatric symptoms. They were becoming psychotic. They were becoming psychotic with depression. They were developing anxiety disorders. I mean, so it is a very interesting virus in terms of what the medical complications can be as a result.
Okay.
Again, that's where the finances comes into play, because some people were in the hospital longer.
Right.
They had more medical bills, needing health insurance.
Correct.
The health insurance now is actually much more affordable. And I do advise anyone that is weary about it to get online, and they have lots of programs now to assist people to make sure that they have health insurance. But yes, we were seeing an increase of psychiatric disorders, even with people either exacerbating what they had or people developing serious psychiatric disorders that never had any psychiatric illness in the past.
Oh, that's huge.
I mean, people having auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations that have no history of psychosis.
So when
Developing.
I'm sorry, not to cut you, Doc, but when you talk about auditory hallucinations and visual hallucinations, give me an example of each, please.
Oh, an auditory hallucination is when you hear sounds or people talking or a person talking, but it's not actually happening. So you can hear someone talking to you, you can hear whispers, noises, people talking to each other. That is an auditory hallucination. A visual hallucination is visually you're seeing something, but it's not actually there. It can be a shadow, it can be a person, it can be a face. Depending on how vivid the hallucination is, it kind of gives us an indication of what the actual medical problem is.
Okay.
But that's some of the symptoms that were emerging out of COVID.
Wow.
So it's important now when I see a patient to find out if they've had COVID, because COVID in and of itself can create a clinical picture that is very different if the person was not exposed to COVID.
Wow.
I mean, didn't actually have the illness.
Okay.
Yes, we've had patients that have come in with partial paralysis that can't be explained, memory loss, just, and if you're in, if you're in that situation, again, you want to have your house in order because you don't know if you're going to need to be out of work.
Yes.
You don't know if you're going to need to be in rehab. You don't know. So if you're financially secure, then that was another big issue I had. Patients that had COVID and they had to be out of work, but they needed to go to work because they didn't have the income.
Wow.
So those,
That's major. That's major.
Having financial security, it helps you in ways that you may not even be able to predict. And what are you going to do? These patients were isolated. Patients were in the hospital for 3 to 4 weeks.
Yes.
They could not leave their rooms, and they would want to go to work. We're like, you cannot go to work. You have to stay in this room until we clear you.
Yes, that is huge, and that's still ongoing, right? And then, as far as I can see and hear and read about the isolational piece of what took place during, right? How does that affect one's ability to continue to live a healthy lifestyle?
The isolation was devastating. Older people with dementia, having to be by themselves, not seeing families.
Yes.
Because just having that family support improves their mental status. People isolated, drinking more, abuse increasing, depression, that lack of social connection was devastating for people,
And how long do you anticipate these issues lasting? Because COVID is not over, right?
No, it's not over.
So this is going to go on for years. And how much more can one take, and how can they maintain that mental well-being and stay, emotionally well, because it's not over?
Yes.
And just knowing that they have someone like you who sit down with them. I love the way you talk with your patients, and it's like you hold their hand and you're so gentle with them, and they feel so loved by you. How can they know that this is not over, but they have someone like you to help throughout the process?
Cynthia, let me tell you, we have been talking about telehealth and telepsychiatry as something that was supposed to eventually come. COVID, all of the outpatient facilities, all of the inpatient facilities now have telepsychiatry. This wasn't supposed to be implemented for years. COVID also catapulted that. So people have the luxury now of meeting with a psychiatrist through their phone.
Yes. That's
so
correct.
You can get an appointment and you can meet with a psychiatrist, a therapist through your phone, like ways that we never had before.
Right.
People who are concerned about being exposed
Right.
can have appointments from home.
Yes.
Depending on the psychiatrist like myself, I would like to see patients in person at least once because I just want that social interaction.
Right.
But you can have your telepsychiatry, your psychotherapy
Yes.
through video.
Right.
And it's all secure and it's all private.
Correct. Yes.
So that is one of the wonderful ways that we've been able to reach out to people because they have the convenience now. I talk to people in their cars. I talk to people in between lunch breaks. I talk to people, in their rooms. They're cooking.
Right.
But it's so convenient.
Right.
It's so convenient. So I think COVID has actually assisted in that. People that physically can't get there because of physical disabilities, transportation used to be an issue. If you have any kind of device, we can talk.
Yes. That's amazing how the shift has taken place since 2020, right? And people have been adjusting to the shift. There are some people who are just they're not adjusting. They can't change, to be able to have that interaction via video.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of outpatient treatment centers that were shut down through the midst of the pandemic, and people needed to get those services and weren't able to get them. So now that the telepsychiatry is more prevalent, I am so amazed at how well some people are able to pivot, right? And now they can utilize it. And knowing that they have you, right, and they have other professionals out there, do you prescribe medications to someone who is calling you through, a video call? And how does that work?
Again, Cynthia, everything has changed. We have e-scribing now.
Nice.
I don't even have a prescription pad.
Not anymore.
You tell me if you tell me your pharmacy prescription, directly to the pharmacy, they can pick it up. That's where we are.
How convenient is that, right? I remember you carrying your pad around, Doc, right? In scripts, no more of that.
Everything has really changed. For our younger patients, they love it because they're already on their phones.
Right.
Our older patients, at least where I was working, we are still there every day.
Okay.
It's just left up to the patient. We are one of the facilities that is fully open.
Okay. Great.
So they have the option of coming. So I find that the older patients still like to come. The younger patients are more with the telepsychiatry, telehealth.
And thank you for sharing that and giving us, all these great nuggets, because the audience out here, sometimes they listen to the news and the news just give them more anxiety than anything else.
Oh,
the news contribute to the depression. So how can we help our audience to stop watching the bad news? This is a news channel, but we're here to bring good news, good solutions, right? We talk about problems, just like in finances. People get the credit card, the mortgages, they get the loans, but they don't actually give you solutions.
Yes.
So in closing, as we close, I wanted to just check with you to see if there's any advice that you want to give to the audience before we close up the show today. And thank you for all your help.
Cynthia, what I would like to tell the audience is, again, it is critical to your mental health if you get your financial house in order. It will reduce your depression, it will reduce your anxiety, and it will give you the support and cushion to assist with unpredictable problems and conflict. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Hope to have you back on the show again.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
I loved it.
Thank you. And thank you for watching Millennium TV 24 in sponsorship with Roku TV, Amazon TV, Apple TV. Please download on your smartphone, your iPad, your iPhone, your Android, and watch us on YouTube. This is Money Talks with Cynthia Abbott. See you next week. Same time, same place. Have a beautiful and blessed day.
Bye-bye.